We're getting new reporting today on a shift in the global fight against climate change. According to the New York Times, a landmark report from the UN will declare reducing methane emissions, the main component of natural gas, critical for the future of the climate. This is a departure from the global discussion around the issue, which has long focused on reducing carbon dioxide emissions. This comes as another major study released on Wednesday shed light on who is most affected by climate change. While 4 out of 10 Americans live in polluted areas, people of color are 61% more likely to live in a county with unhealthy air than white people. One of those calling for an intersectional approach to climate change is Jamie Margolin. She's a 19-year-old climate activist and co-founder and executive director of Zero Hour. She's also the author of Youth to Power, Your Voice and How to Use It. And she joins us now. Wow, first of all, a book and you're 19. I'm really impressed with that. That is very impressive. My first question simply is, you know, as we look at Biden's agenda on climate, as a young activist, do you think that he has the right approach so far, given the fact that we just went through a 2-day climate summit?
I think there are some things being done right that can be acknowledged, but then there are also some parts of his approach that need to be a lot stronger and stick more to the science. Specifically, I hear Biden and other world leaders keep harping on, we're going to get to zero emissions by 2050, by 2050, by 2050. And I'm like, the science says we need to get there by 2030. So I don't understand why he and other politicians are inventing this number of zero emissions by 2050, which by that point, it's going to be too late to take action. And so we, the youth and anyone who cares about our planet and saving it, need our politicians like Biden to actually listen to the science in terms of the deadlines. In Union Square Park in New York City, there's a climate countdown clock that says we have a little over 6 years left to act on the climate crisis before it's too late. And that's not a made up number. That comes from the science. So the science says, and the big, massive numbers counting down ominously over Union Square Park say that we have a little over 6 years left, not to wait, not just to sit here and wait to take climate action, but within the span of 6 years, completely transform our society to a just transition away from fossil fuels to renewable energy in time for us to make the deadlines and save life on Earth. And so there's no gray area for survival. And I need politicians like Biden to understand that. Yes, it's great that he stopped the Keystone Pipeline, but what about Line 3? What about the Dakota Access Pipeline? What about all of these new fossil fuel infrastructure projects that keep getting approved? We need to halt all new fossil fuel infrastructure and create a just transition before it's too late. Also, President Biden has yet to come out in support of a Green New Deal, which was just reintroduced. And a Green New Deal is a very important first step in order to take climate action, because as you said before, the climate crisis intersects with social justice issues. And the Green New Deal is one of the few pieces of, it's a resolution that actually acknowledges that and works to combat it, which is something that is not done often in American climate policy.
Well, that was a very thorough list of things that you feel the Biden administration could be more aggressive on. And to the piece that you just mentioned about how climate change and racial justice intersect, speak to why it is that the burden of climate change and the climate crisis are falling mostly on communities of color because of American history, and the fact that, you know, the air, the water, and all of those resources, you know, in communities of color, they're very polluted, and it's very different than in white communities.
Because corporations and governments know who they can take advantage of because of historical precedent. The communities that have been disproportionately marginalized for centuries in this country are the communities that they can get away with polluting. You're not going to see a pipeline be built through, I don't know, Beverly Hills, a rich white community, a majority white community, or Bel Air, or any of like wealth. Wealth also has something to do with it. It's the intersection of wealth and racial privileges are the people who feel the least impacts of the climate crisis, and the intersection of race and wealth not being privileged racially or in wealth in this country that decide who feels the worst impacts of the climate crisis. And none of this is accidental. The system is working exactly as it was built to be working. And so that's why we have to create a new one.
Last question in the last minute here. So you're 19 years old and you've written a book. You're very active on this issue. Do you feel like you have to be active on this issue? And do you ever wish grown-ups would actually take charge and you could live out your teenage years like, you know, with normal stuff that 19-year-olds would want to do?
I've been fighting for climate justice since I was 14 years old, and now I'm 19. So from my freshman year of high school and now I'm in my freshman year of college, it's been nothing but nonstop climate action. And that is the story, not just for me, but for so many other young people. And I feel like the media keeps doing this thing where they're like, oh, and leaders too, like, oh my God, the work that you're doing is so cute and so impressive. Like, keep up the amazing work. You're going to save the world. I've had politicians who have the power to actually change things tell me and my fellow young people, you're going to save the world. You're going to create climate action. And I'm like, dude, I have homework to do. I'm literally in a dorm room. The reason why my bed is behind me is because I'm literally in a dormitory. Like, I have homework to do after this. Right after I get off of this, I have a bunch of assignments that I'm late on. And that is the reality for so many other young activists. And so the fact that leaders and corporations and people in power whose full-time jobs who are getting paid to be able to have the resources to solve this issue have the audacity to tell someone who is a young person who's stressed, who's dealing with just growing up is hard, who's dealing with growing up, who's dealing with adolescence, who's dealing with school and has a lot of homework to do and doesn't have any actual hold on, you know, legislative branches or policy or anything like that, telling us kids, young people, to like, you're going to save the world. Like, that's on you. It's like they get to hoist it onto us and they think it's a compliment. Like, but it's not a compliment. They need to be taking action. They need to be stepping up because it's not the young people's responsibility. Yeah. We're blowing the whistle, but we need them to act.
Well, that's a really good point. We'll have to leave it there, but that's a message to those folks who are in elected office. You guys have the power. Young people are involved in climate because they are going to be here living when many of these dates and deadlines come up. Jamie Margolin, co-founder and executive director of Zero Hour. Thank you so much for being here. Please stay safe.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.